All right, let's talk about data science. We're going to demystify the whole thing by walking through the exact roadmap pros use to turn messy, raw data into some really powerful, clear insights. So let's dive in. I mean, this is the central question, right? You hear data-driven decisions thrown around all the time. But how? How does a bunch of numbers in a spreadsheet actually tell a company what to do next? It can feel like a total black box. But here's the thing, it's not magic. It's more like a machine. It's a structured, repeatable process. Think of it as a journey, one with a clear beginning, a middle, and an end. And yeah, we're going to walk through it together, step by step. And here it is. This is our roadmap. This diagram is going to be our guide for the next few minutes, taking us from setting the goal all the way to presenting the results. It's basically our blueprint for how you build something meaningful with data. So first things first, every great building needs a solid foundation, right? Well, in data science, it's the exact same thing. That means starting with a really clear purpose and getting the right materials together. Honestly, this is where the success of the entire project is often decided, right at the very beginning. Okay, step one, setting the research goal. And here's the most important part. You ready? This step has nothing to do with data yet. Seriously, it is all about the question. Before you write a single line of code, you have to nail down what you're trying to achieve and why it even matters. It's absolutely crucial that everyone involved is on the exact same page. And this isn't just some vague idea talked about over coffee. It gets formalized in something called a project charter, which is basically the contract for the whole project. And when you look at this list, you see why it's so powerful. It forces everyone to think through the essentials. What does success actually look like? What resources do we need? How long is this all going to take? You get this document right, and you are already well on your way to a successful outcome. All right, so once you know the question you're trying to answer, now it's time to go find your ingredients. This is step two, retrieving the data. This is where you finally start gathering the raw stuff you'll be working with. Now, these ingredients can come from two main places. First, you've got your internal data. You start by looking inside your own company, at the data you already have sitting in your databases. But sometimes, the key ingredient isn't in your own kitchen. You might need to go find some external data from a third party, like a market research firm or even from public sources, like Twitter. And honestly, the best insights often come from mixing both of those together. Okay, now we're moving into the next phase, which I like to call getting your hands dirty. This is where so much of the real work happens. Because let's be real, data is rarely, if ever, perfect. So it's time for cleaning, organizing, and just starting to understand what it is we've actually got here. 80%. Just let that number sink in for a second. 80%. What on earth could possibly take up 80% of a data scientist's time? Well, this quote right here perfectly illustrates the, shall we say, unglamorous truth of data science. Step 3, data preparation, is all about cleaning. We're talking fixing errors, handling missing values, getting rid of typos, all that stuff. It is meticulous, it's painstaking work, but it is absolutely essential. Remember this, your model is only as good as the data you feed it. Garbage in, garbage out. So, once your data is all squeaky clean, you can finally start to play with it. This is step 4, data exploration. Think of it like the first conversation you have with your data. You're not building any complex models yet, not at all. You're just looking. You're looking for initial patterns, for trends, for anything that kind of stands out as weird or interesting. And you know what? Simple visuals are your absolute best friend here. A basic bar chart, just like this one, can immediately show you the peaks and valleys. In just a single glance, you can spot how something has changed over time. And then you can switch it up and look at things differently. For example, do two different things move together? Well, a scatter plot is perfect for that. Each little dot is a data point, and you can see really quickly if there's some kind of relationship, a correlation between the two things you're measuring. It really is all about choosing the right tool for the job, the right visual for the question you're asking. Okay, let's recap. You've defined your goal, you've gathered and cleaned your data, you've explored it a bit. Now we get to the part that everybody thinks of when they hear data science. It's time for step 5, building the model. So what exactly is a model? A great way to think about it is like an engine. You feed it your clean data, and this engine learns the hidden patterns inside, the relationships you could never, ever spot just by looking. Then it uses those learned patterns to make predictions. For instance, it might predict which of your customers are likely to cancel their subscription, or figure out which emails are spam. This is where the real magic, the predictive power, comes from. But that raises a huge question, right? There are so many different types of models to choose from, and they all have their own strengths and weaknesses. So how in the world do you know which one is the best for your specific problem? It's actually pretty simple. You make them compete. And this table here shows exactly how that competition works. Think of it like studying for a test in school. You use, say, 80% of your data, we call that the training set, to teach the models. You let them learn from it. Then you test them on the other 20% of the data that they have never seen before. You measure how many mistakes or errors each model makes on the test data, and as you can see from the totals down at the bottom, Model 1 made way fewer errors. So we have a win. So, we've built our winning model. We have our answer. We're done, right? Not so fast. The journey isn't over. In fact, this final step, this is what separates a good data scientist from a truly great one. Because think about it, an amazing insight that just stays buried in a spreadsheet or a chunk of code, it's completely worthless. The final critical step is all about communication. You have to take all your complex technical findings and translate them into a clear, compelling story that other people, your stakeholders, can actually understand and, more importantly, act on. This last stage, step 6, really has two parts. First, there's the presentation itself. This is where your soft skills, your storytelling skills really have to shine. And second, if your work is actually valuable, guess what? People are going to want it again. So you often need to automate the process, turning your one-time analysis into a repeatable tool or a dashboard that can deliver that value over and over again, without you having to do it by hand every time. So there you have it. That's the whole 6-step roadmap. Let's just quickly recap the big ideas. It all starts with a question, not with data. It involves a ton of cleaning, way more than you'd think. You always explore your data before you try to model it. You make your models compete to find the best one. And finally, you have to be able to present your findings effectively. It's not done till it's communicated. It's a really powerful and structured process, isn't it? A way to turn simple curiosity into real actionable knowledge. And now that you have the map, it kind of makes you think, what questions are out there, just waiting for the right data and the right process to finally be answered? If you had this roadmap, what problem would you solve?